Listen, man. Okay, listen, in all seriousness, man, the Jets, it's one game, right? It is one game. It's the National Football League. We all know how this crap works. Teams get better, teams get worse. Listen, it is what it is, right? It's a long season ago. You don't have to go 15 and 16 and 0 or 17 and 0 or whatever that you don't have to go undefeated or stuff like that. Listen, the Jets will have losses. They still have a great chance of making the playoffs. They still have a really good roster. So it is what it is. But it is funny as hell. I'm not going to lie to you. It is fun as all hell to at some point make fun of Jets fans, especially because especially myself pulling up the Jets spaces and hearing just the hype of the Jets. I've heard for the most part, guys, pretty much the Chicago Bears and the New York Jets are the only two franchises I've heard all off season that have been losers for damn near a decade, and yet still have this hope that they can go ahead with Aaron Rodgers and potentially compete for a championship. All off season, the trash talk against my Bills, hell, against the Miami Dolphins, against the New England Patriots have been unreal. It's been crazy the amount of trash talk I've heard, especially in the division. So I'm not gonna lie to you, it's fun as hell to see it, especially because some of the things that they said that they have fixed and that that the talent's gonna elevate around them in certain positions. Oh, it looked like mediocrity again. The interior offensive line in the run game got their ass handed to them, and this is what people kept telling me that they really improved on. I thought Tyron Smith played an okay game. Morgan Moses, I thought, played an okay game. I thought pass protection was solid for the most part with Aaron Rodgers, but for the most part, I mean, if the superstar future Hall of Famer Aaron Rodgers, let's be honest here, guys, didn't really have that good of a game. Now, again, compared to past or previous Jets quarterbacks, oh yeah, Aaron Rodgers looks a lot better than them. He looks better than every single one of them, and that includes Ryan Fitzpatrick. But is that really? But again, and I kept hearing that comparison from Jets fans about all these Jets quarterbacks, all these Jets quarterbacks and shit like that. Listen, Aaron Rodgers is the best Jets quarterback since Joe Namath. He might be the best Jets quarterback since Joe Namath. Like, seriously. And that's how bad the organization has been. He might actually be the best Jets quarterback since fucking Joe Namath. And even then, the Jets still may not make the playoffs because this is a deep AFC. There's a lot of really good defenses, a lot of really good rosters. And I think that Jets fans, you guys are underestimating your schedule. That is actually, I don't think that's an easy schedule, man. That is not an easy schedule. Are a lot of the games winnable? Yes, these games are winnable. But I can make the argument for every NFL football team that the games are winnable. Like, we look at certain teams and say, well, they played bad, so we think that this team is going to, so we should crush this team. That's not the way the NFL works, man. This is a week-to-week league. Teams turn the page. Teams flip the page. And listen, it's different. There's different strengths and weaknesses. And plus, again, knowing the fact that it is the NFL, everyone's talented. Everyone's damn near elite. If comparing to all the football players across the world, this is where the elite of the elite play at. So I can make, there's a legitimate argument or a claim that, yeah, no game in the NFL is easy. This is a league where a shit ton of parity happens every single year, where some of the top teams will automatically the next season suck, and where the crappy teams, that sometimes, especially if they can make the right moves in the front office and during the offseason, they can automatically move up to being a top contender. It happens every single year. So the New York Jets is one of those teams that a lot of people think that they can elevate themselves to becoming a championship contender because they have an elite defense. They have Mo Salah, who's a defensive-minded coach. They have Aaron Rodgers, and, you pair that off with Garrett Wilson and Breece Hall, and now you made some improvements on the offensive line. You bring offensive line that the Jets will automatically not just make the playoffs, but according to Vegas, could win the division and go 12-5. So I've had to hear it all from Jets fans all fucking offseason about how they were going to just win a bunch of games and because they beat the Buffalo Bills the last couple years when Ken Dorsey was offensive coordinator, that imagine what the Jets look like with Aaron Rodgers. I had to hear it all year round. So yeah, I was anticipating this matchup. Out of all the matchups, including my own team, I was waiting for this game because I wanted to see what Aaron Rodgers, if he's healthy, what he looks like in a Jets uniform. And boy, did he not disappoint. Boy, did he not disappoint, man. Oh, man. Listen, the interior offensive line is a question mark. That interior offensive line got their ass kicked. I thought Allen Lazard had a solid game. Garrett Wilson's going to be a very good receiver. Mike Williams is a question mark because, again, injuries have affected his career. Like, it just has. He continues to be injury-riddled almost every season. So we're going to have to see about that because, again, yes, Allen Lazard can step up and make plays. He's not going to do this every game, right? For the most part, Allen Lazard is a borderline number 2 to maybe even a number 3 receiver. He's not going to do this every game. We all know what Garrett Wilson can do as a number 1 receiver, but even then, you know, he can't become Superman every single game for you. He can't be the only target that's going to be effective. Other players are going to have to step up, especially because, let's be honest, yes, Mike Williams can play, but can you rely on Mike Williams in crucial moments and crucial situations down the stretch? I have no idea because he's been hurt. He continues to be injury riddled during this time. So the offensive line was crap tonight in the run game. Breece Hall, who I kept hearing could potentially be the best running back in the National Football League, fantasy number 1 pick. He did have a touchdown, by the way. But, I mean, if he doesn't really have the offensive line to kind of help him, I don't know if he can replicate the production that he did last season. And the defense got destroyed. My goodness. The defense, especially up front in the interior, got fucked up in this football game. Now, listen, is it going to happen every game? No. Because the 49ers do have a really good offensive line. However, this is not going to be the only good offensive line you play against, guys. And as good as the Jets are, roster-wise, they got a lot of talent. You got to prove it on the football field. And, again, it's one game. You got 16 more games to go. And that's not including the bye week. But you got 15, 16 more games to go. We'll see what happens during the season if the Jets can be a legitimate threat to make the playoffs. But I do believe that Jets fans, you have been underestimating this conference since the entirety of the offseason. Because all I kept hearing was, if Aaron Rodgers can be healthy, we're making the playoffs. There's a lot of tough competition in this conference. We'll see if you guys can do it. But so far, week 1, shitty start. A very, very shitty start for the New York Jets. They look like the same old Jets from last season. So we'll see what happens, man. But until then, Buffalo Bills, Miami Dolphins, and the New England Patriots, we did our things in the AFC East.